he became president, enormous effort has gone into putting that into practice. And a couple of weeks ago, the Attorney General was here to brief us on progress made so far. You will recall that a preparatory team was put in place to collate information regarding alleged acts of corruption and other forms of wrongdoing. And this team presented its report to the president, who promptly handed it over to the Attorney General and his team to look into. The Attorney General was here a couple of weeks back to update us on progress made. And today he has taken some steps towards ensuring that that policy comes to fruition. He is here today to brief us of latest developments so that we'll know exactly where we are in terms of the implementation of the Operation Recover or Loot. So without taking any more of your time, I would invite upstage the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Honorable Dr. Dominic Ayine, to do his briefing. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, no, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the media. I must first of all begin by apologizing profusely for keeping you waiting in excess of 2 hours. But it was because I had to deal with the arraignment of Mr. Kobina Edubohin today. And we started late before the High Court. And of course, the Defense Counsel was at their best trying to put impediments in the way of what I was asking the court to do, and we delayed a little bit. But as the Honorable Minister for Government Communications has indicated, I am here today to give you an update of developments relating to our quest as a government to exact accountability as promised by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. You will recall that on March 20th, 2025, I appeared before you to provide a briefing on the arrest and detention of Mr. Kobina Edubohin, a former director of the National Signals Bureau, and the progress of investigations into the elaborate criminal enterprise that he set up to rob his fellow citizens of millions of Ghana cedis. I informed you then that meticulous investigations undertaken by the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, otherwise known as EOCO, had uncovered a scheme that Mr. Edubohin set up, which resulted in the loss of 49,100,000 Ghana cedis, or at the prevailing exchange rate in February and March 2020, when the crime took place, the equivalent of 7 million United States of American dollars. At today's exchange rate, this will be 108,500,000 Ghana cedis. That is the cost of one Agenda 111 hospital going into one person's pocket. I can now confirm that at the conclusion of our investigations, that is exactly how much he stole from the taxpayers of this our beloved country. In consequence, and in exercise of the power conferred on me under Article 88 of the Constitution, I have today filed charges against Mr. Edubohin, his wife Angela Adjei-Boateng, one Mildred Donko, a former employee of UMB Bank, who resigned just in time to join in the criminal enterprise, and a company called Advantage Solutions Limited, a holding company owned by Mr. Burkin and his wife, which received a substantial portion of the funds and was used as a conduit for funneling the funds into other companies owned by them. These other companies are Vertex Properties Limited, Vertex Solutions, and of course, the famous BNC Communications Bureau Limited, which was, if you remember, that was a vehicle that was used to steal the 49,100,000 Ghana cedis from the national security accounts. Based on the evidence on the docket, we have charged Mr. Burkin with stealing, 3 counts of stealing, 1 count of defrauding by false pretenses, another count of willfully causing financial loss to the state, another count of using public office for profit and money laundering. His wife, Angela Ajay Boateng, has been charged with conspiracy to steal, collaboration to commit the crime of using public office for private benefit or profit, conspiracy to commit money laundering and money laundering. In the case of Mildred Donko, we have charged her with 2 counts of conspiracy to commit money laundering and money laundering. The same goes for the company known as Advantage Solutions. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, my fellow countrymen and women, I am keenly aware of the criticisms that were leveled against me after my March 2025 press conference. In particular, some of our compatriots accused me of judging Mr. Burkin and his dear wife prior to filing charges, and others opined that what I said of them should have been left to the courts to decide. I respectfully disagree for a number of reasons. The first is that I said nothing at that press conference that suggested even remotely that their guilt had been predetermined. Far from that. As the Attorney General of this Republic, I am the first to acknowledge that no matter how watertight the evidence of a prosecutor is, the accused is still entitled to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. That is a principle enshrined in Article 19 of our Constitution. And I cannot go against that cardinal principle. The second reason why I disagree with those of my fellow countrymen and women who think that the matters are dealt with at these press conferences should be left to the courts is that the constitutions require that we act, at least in public office, with probity and accountability. I see these press briefings, including the one I'm having today, as a way of breathing life into those cardinal values of our Constitution. Lastly, I think that there is absolutely nothing wrong with a prosecutor exhibiting confidence in his case. With particular reference to the case under review, the diligent investigations by the Economic and Organized Crimes Office led by Mr. Raymond Archer gives me a high level of hope and confidence that, all things being equal, I will obtain convictions on most, if not all, of the charges that I have preferred today. Besides the documentary evidence involving bank statements, deposit slips, check numbers, and so on and so forth, we have persons with deep knowledge of the matter who have agreed to testify at the trial. Persons with very deep knowledge, primary persons who were close to the action, have agreed after having been, interrogated, about what they know, they have agreed to testify in this matter. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, my fellow countrymen and women, between March 2025, when I announced the arrest and detention of Mr. Burkin and his accomplices, and now, there has been some speculation as to whether my press conference was yet another piece of political propaganda. Some media houses actually claimed that I had been deceived into holding the press conference. and that I had in turn misled His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic. Let it be known that unlike some presidents in the past who were misled, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is on top of his brief and cannot be misled. Indeed, if any appointee would mislead the President, it would not be his Attorney General. So everything I have told the President, I have evidence to prove it, and the docket is replete with documentary evidence of the wrongdoing that has been investigated. Having said that, I wish to let it be known that the delay in filing charges came about because our diligent investigation team came across yet another scheme hatched by Mr. Idubohin, this time involving Ghana Water Company Limited. This criminal enterprise involved the purported provision of secured internet services to Ghana Water Company Limited by the erstwhile Bureau of National Communications, now National Signals Bureau. The contract document showed that Ghana Water was to pay BNC, that is the national BNC, the sum of 650,000 Ghana cedis every 2 weeks for secured internet services from BNC, that is the Bureau of National Communications. However, for purposes of the payment, Kobina Idubohin provided the account details of his company, BNC Communications Bureau Limited, to Ghana Water, which religiously paid for the internet services. In other words, every 2 weeks when 650,000 Ghana cedis of money from Ghana Water left the bank accounts of Ghana Water, instead of going to the National Signals Bureau account, it went to the account of a company known as Bureau of National Communications, owned by Kobina Idubohin and his wife. Okay? And then they did what they wanted to do with the money. So for every month, Ghana Water paid 1.3 million Ghana cedis to Kobina Idubohin and his company in exchange for internet services provided by the government. Because remember that the National Signals Bureau is a government agency. Now come to think of it, that the government agency is providing secured internet services to Ghana Water Limited, a limited liability company solely owned by the same government. And Ghana Water is spending money that they do not have, okay, to pay for internet services at that cost, 1.3 million Ghana cedis every month. In fact, the figure rose to 1.5 million Ghana cedis every month at the close of our investigations. Now, you remember that in 2020, Bureau of National Communications became National Signals Bureau. And so, because the contract documents stipulated that the payments be made to Bureau of National Communications, Ghana Water then demanded that the check payments be made to National Signals Bureau because of the change in the corporate identity of BNC. What then happened was that any time the check was made out to National Signals Bureau and it landed in the accounts of National Signals Bureau, Kobina Idubohin, as Director of National Signals Bureau, would then immediately write a check to himself and transfer the money. From our investigations, you can see the movement of the money. Immediately it comes from Ghana Water, he signs a check and transfers the money into his personal company account. Now, today something happened in court. Counsel for the defense told the judge that whatever I had said was a figment of my own imagination. But of course, he is entitled to earn his fee. So he can say that. I have been briefed constantly and regularly. I've seen the evidence. And anybody who knows me knows that if I haven't seen the evidence, I won't be in front of you today. I have seen the evidence. The reason why some people have opted to testify is because they know that the case is watertight. So, counsel can continue to say what he's saying, but when we present the evidence in court, he will know that this is far from being imaginative. I have a very fertile imagination, but not in this case. So, ladies and gentlemen of the media, significant progress has also been made in other investigations being conducted in relation to the oral briefs presented to me in February. The investigations by the National Intelligence Bureau have been equally thorough under the direction of its Director General, Mr. Alhassan Kipo, and guided by the team in my office, most often led by the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Srim Sai. In respect of the SkyTrain matter, we have completed investigations and will be filing charges hopefully next week. We have established that $2 million United States of American dollars was paid by the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund without board approval. The only persons who knew and acted on the payment were the former CEO, Mr. Solomon Asamoah, and the former board chairman, Professor Ameyao Ekumfi. Both will be charged next week. The docket's ready. We know the charges we are filing against them, so they will be charged next week. Some of the board members have offered to testify as witnesses for the prosecution, and I am considering their offers. And usually what I do is that when you offer to testify, I sign an agreement with you, and I immunize you from prosecution either today or in the future. So that is what I'm doing with those who are making offers. So if you know, if you're a whistleblower, you know of any crime that has taken place, please come. Even if you are marginally involved, I'm prepared to cut a deal, and then we can deal with the actual criminals. Now, the investigation in the National Service ghost names scandal has also progressed well, and we will be filing charges against some of the persons involved from the first week of May, also, in a few days' time. Other matters such as National Cathedral, mathematical sets, senior high school Wi-Fi are also nearing completion, and dockets are being prepared for prosecutions to begin. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, my fellow countrymen and women, as your Attorney General, I wish to assure you that I have sufficient reserves of integrity to continue to perform the task assigned me by His Excellency, the President of the Republic. I have never stolen before in my life and have never received a bribe in public office. All those who have dealt with me know this for a fact, and the President would not have appointed me his Attorney General if he had questions about my personal integrity. That is why it came to me as a big surprise when the honorable member for Gomoa Central, the Honorable Kwame Asare-Obeng, aka A+, took to social media to make spurious allegations against me, calling me corrupt and a thief. Besides the name calling, the Facebook post in its totality was a palpable falsehood. I was never involved in the passage of the sanitation levy, as I was not a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, let alone to be in a position to influence the composition of the membership of the committee. And I have the Hansard as documentary support for what I'm saying. I have the votes and proceedings of Parliament. Unfortunately, I left them in the office. I think I have them here. Yes. So for the media, the report of the committee as well as the vote and proceedings are here. If you want to do some research on the matter that he alleged that I was involved and I channeled, I made sure that the membership of the committee was, changed, and then the monies from the sanitation levy were channeled to my friend and so on and so forth. I'm not friends with whoever was the beneficiary of the sanitation levy. But interestingly, A+ warned me in the post not to do anything silly and that he will come after me if I did. That is laughable. First of all, I do not act silly because I think through the consequences of my actions, not only for my person, but also for others. That is what we were taught in Notre Dame Minor Seminary, and I am proud to say, without fear of any contradiction, that I have kept faith with that principle. Secondly, the threat is laughable because I have nothing to hide. I am reliably informed that his basis of saying that I am corrupt and a thief is that I took campaign contribution from a businessman at East Legon known as Dr. Sledge, and that he also knows the people who donated pickups for my campaign. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if receiving donations for your campaign or getting a pickup for a campaign is thievery or corruption, then there are 276 thieves in Parliament, including the person who was making the allegation himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, if A+ has any evidence of corruption or thievery against me, I am challenging him today to call a press conference and present the evidence or present it to the police to investigate me. In contrast, the media should ask him about the silly thing that I was about to do, which frightened him so much into making that silly post about me. He should be asked what he knows about the National Service ghost name scandal and related matters. If he can give truthful answers to these questions, then Ghanaians will know why he took to social media to do what he did. But let him be warned that in my hometown of Zorungu, we do not fear mud being thrown at us. On the contrary, we walk into the mud to deal with the person doing the mud slinging. And I am prepared to walk into the mud with A+. Because what I have about him and the National Service scandal, he should come and tell you. I'm challenging him. He should come and tell you, the media, and stop cowardly hiding behind social media to make baseless allegations against people who have worked hard to earn a reputation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think I will end here. Thank you.
What about
Oh, thank you very much. I have just been reminded that we have made a decision to charge Mr. Kobina Eduboahin and other accomplices in the Ghana water scandal separately. Okay, so in a few weeks, we'll be filing separate charges against him. And the amount of money in the Ghana water scandal is in excess of 62 million Ghana cedis. 62 million Ghana cedis. That Ghana water, that sometimes does not have money to pay for chemicals to purify your water, had to part with, purportedly for the provision of secured internet services by a government agency. That is what happened. I thank you very much for your attention, and once again, sorry for the delay in addressing you. I think we can now take questions unless you are satisfied with everything I have said. Okay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Attorney General, for that comprehensive briefing. At this stage, we will take questions from the media. It is already late, so I would urge you to be snappy about the questions. We take the first set of 5 questions. If you have any question, please step forward ask the question briefly. You are limited to one question, please, so that we can maximize the time.
Just the one, if you can allow me. It's not always that
you are not entitled to 5 questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not entitled to 5.
So please go ahead with your question. Yes.
Definitely.
Are there any other questioners in the stands? Okay, no, you can stand here, please. Yeah.
My question first off to the Attorney General has to do specifically with the demand of the Ghana Bar Association for the President to revoke the suspension of the judge. I know that is not the main subject for which reason you are here, but there are those who will want to know specifically what advice you'll be offering to the President on that, or what it is. But briefly, today the Fourth Estate report has come out that nearly 55 of your colleagues in government have not declared their assets, contrary to the specific directive that was given to the President for them to do so by the end of March, and they haven't done that. What exactly will you be doing that? And finally, on this specific case you talked about, having to do with the filing of cases, there are those who have suggested that you are waiting for the Chief Justice to be suspended so that you can file new charges, especially since the new CJ, the acting CJ I should say, has decided that all cases must come to him for him to specifically assign a judge, and if you could respond to those for me. Thank you very much.
Yes, I will handle the question on the asset declaration. It does not fall within the remit of the matters that the Attorney General has to do. So I would urge you to zone in on the matters that I have been in touch with the Fourth Estate today, and I've drawn the attention to significant discrepancies in the reportage that they put up, because there are people who missed the deadline who have been erroneously accused of not meeting it. So we are in the process of reconciling that, and any other further action or communication will be relayed to members of the public. So that is that on the matter of the asset declaration. So let us stick, with the greatest respect to all of you, to the matters at hand today. Thank you very much.
Right. Just quickly to the Attorney General, a question that simply could be asked is why he is threatening A+ instead of prosecuting him if he has evidence of these matters in relation to the proceedings. And then finally, on the Ghana Water scandal, which was level of 62 million cedis, can you give us a bit more detail, because we got the case, we got names and other related matters. There are those who already want to go and link this to persons present at the time when these deals were signed and this video.
All right. Are there any other questions, please? Okay, so the Attorney General will answer these questions, after which any other set of questions will be taken. Thank you very much. Let me remind you, however, that the questions must relate to the subject matter at hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Now, there was a question about my waiting to start the prosecutions after the removal of the CJ. I saw, I don't know whether it was the Searchlight, Minister for Government Communications. I think Ken Kuranchi's paper is what, is it Searchlight? Yes. It was a Searchlight that said that Ayine is waiting, Ayine swears not to bring prosecutions unless the CJ is asked. No, there was no such plan or strategy on my part. We've been very, very diligent in our investigations, and that is what matters. The prosecutor's case is as good as the docket that is built. So all the wait was because of the fact that we wanted to build a good case, and that is how we are working. We don't care who is Chief Justice and who is not the Chief Justice. So for me, it is all about building a good case and taking that good case to court. Then also the issue of the Ghana Water investigation and giving more details. Because of where we are at the tail end of that investigation, and as I said, I want us to file charges, separately against Kobina Eduboahin and some of the accomplices. So the investigators have cautioned, and I've taken that caution, that until such a time that we have filed the charges, we should leave out the details Because I have already told you in, general outline what the scheme was like, all right? So it was about giving, Ghana Water secured internet services. The company with which the agency with which the contract was signed was a public agency, that is the Bureau of National Communications. However, when payment was being made, the payments went into the private, account, the account of BNC Communications Bureau Limited, a limited liability company owned by Kobna Eduboahi and his wife. So that is an outline what the criminal enterprise was. And when we filed the charges, just like today, we filed the charges and the charges were accompanied by a summary of the factual basis of the criminal charges. We will be doing the same with the Ghana Water case. Then also, the question of the constitutionality of the GBA demand, that the suspension of the Chief Justice should be reversed, or that, the President of the Republic should reverse himself as far as the suspension is concerned. Now, as media people, you do recall that the same Ghana Bar Association issued a statement in which they said that so far the President and the institutions involved had acted constitutionally. They had not breached any provision of the Constitution. Okay? And that was my internal assessment of what had taken place. Legal counsel to the President and everybody who has been involved has been very careful to ensure that the Constitution and laws of this country are obeyed in every step that the President has taken. And we believe that he has not violated the Constitution. And there's no reason why he should reverse himself. The basis of saying that the President should reverse himself is that the President was exercising a discretion. And that in the exercise of discretion, the President has to be guided by rules in accordance with Article 296C. Okay? But the same Ghana Bar Association has ignored precedent. They've ignored the case of Ramford France and the Attorney General, where the same Supreme Court ruled that the absence of rules under Article 296C does not necessarily make the exercise of discretion unconstitutional. So unless they want the Supreme Court to reverse itself on that ruling, some people have argued that Ramford France and Attorney General was wrongly decided. So if they want the Supreme Court to reverse that precedent, which, by the way, also applied to decisions that were taken by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. There were no rules formulated in accordance with Article 296C when His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo took the decision that the petition by Professor Professor Asare, okay, that the petition lacked merit. The Ghana Bar Association was in this country. They did not issue a statement saying that the President's determination was unconstitutional. So that is where I will leave the matter of the constitutionality of the demand of the Ghana Bar Association. Have I forgotten of any question? Oh, thank you very much. The question, I haven't threatened him. I have just challenged him to come out with the evidence that he told the whole world that he had about me. Okay? So I have thrown the challenge. But I have been quiet and careful because I do not want the banter with A+, all right, to overshadow the good work that myself and my team are doing. So I decided to keep quiet. I ignored it for some time, but because I ignored it, some people were giving credence to it. I remember somebody did a video, or he was, interviewed, and he said the Attorney General has been called a corrupt person, he's been called a thief, and he's keeping quiet. So if he's not corrupt or he's not a thief, he should come out and say it. Okay? Given the credence that was being given to what A+ said, I decided to state categorically today that the Facebook post was, first of all, a palpable falsehood, because everything that he said there never happened and never applied to me. I was never a member of the Finance Committee. I did not take part in any decisions, and so on and so forth. What he talks about as evidence of corruption is nothing to write home about. But maybe he has something that I do not know. Now, when it comes to what to do, okay, I do know that he has not been interrogated. All right, I'm not going to presume anything. If he submits himself to interrogation by the NIB, I'm a fair-minded person. If there's no wrongdoing involved in whatever he did, I will stay off. So that is all that I can say for now. Are there any more questions?
Honorable, with everything that is expected of ORA, how willing are you to exercise your discretion in negotiating a plea bargain, and just as you threw an open invitation to the public in terms of supporting your case, would you also throw this challenge to people out there for would you throw a challenge to some of these people to come for this plea bargain? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Osman Abador from Radio Gold. My question is, how will government ensure transparency and accountability in contracts between government and agency and officials of government going forward after this issue that has happened? How is government going to do it going forward? Thank you.
No, just a quick question on arguments made in court today. We know from our court correspondent that you were pushing for the bail of Mr. Ibrahim to be revoked. We don't have clarity on that yet. Was that application granted by the court? Because we got wind that there was surveillance which suggested some other things being done.
Okay, so on the first question of a plea bargain, I think on March, in the March 2025 press conference, I made it abundantly clear that the strategy that we have adopted is to have contemporaneous investigation of both the crime, that is a criminal enterprise, as well as the assets or proceeds of crime. So that is the approach that we are using. And that approach is because of oral, okay? Oral is not just about accountability. Oral is also about recovery. And so if from all indications, someone who has been charged with a criminal offense or in the course of investigation comes forward to say that they are willing and able to return the loot in exchange for a plea deal, which will mean, for instance, that either we let them walk away without, getting punished, either through a fine or a term of imprisonment, or instead of getting, let's say, 10 years in jail, we can cut it to 5 years in jail or 2 years in jail in exchange for a recovery of what they have looted. I am happy to do that. Very happy to do that, because that is the essence of oral, and that is what Ghanaians want. They do not want people to go to Nsawam and come back out of jail to enjoy the loot. Okay? So Ghanaians want persons who have looted state resources to return those resources. So my duty and the duty of the team that I lead is always to ensure that when we uncover the criminal conduct, we also trace assets. Now, part of the reason why, and that dovetails into the question about my resistance to the grant of bail to Kobina Idubuahi in particular, I had told the court that the wife can be granted bail, the third accused, Mildred Donko, could be granted bail, but he in particular, I was opposed to the bail being granted because of the probability, the high likelihood of interference with what we were doing, including, for instance, the asset tracing. Okay, we have identified the houses, we've identified the cars, okay, we've identified all the bank accounts and so on and so forth. Okay, but the possibility that when he is free, he could be interfering with the asset asset recovery process is what I brought to the attention of the court, and then also the interference with witnesses. So that was the basis. Now the court hasn't made a decision. We are going to go back on Friday at 9 o'clock for me to brief the judge more comprehensively on why I am opposed to the bill for Kobina Idubuahi, and the judge will make a decision. Then, how do we ensure transparency in government contracting? The Public Procurement Act was enacted precisely for that purpose. Okay? Transparency and accountability in the procurement process, and then also making sure that what is offered to government, all right, in exchange for funds that the government is spending or a government agency will be spending, right, is competitive in terms of prices. All right. So the Act provides mechanisms for advertising the contracts, for people to bid and so on and so forth. That is plainly the only way by which we can ensure transparency in government contracting. In other jurisdictions, for instance, in the United States of America, in Europe and so on, okay, there is no way that you can spend government money above a certain threshold without compliance with the procurement, regimes in those, jurisdictions. And so we have to insist on compliance with the Public Procurement Act and its regulations. Once government agencies, ministries, departments, and agencies of state act in accordance with the law as stipulated by the Public Procurement Act, I'm sure that there will be a lot of transparency in government, contracting. And an American judge once said that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Okay, so once you throw sunlight on the contracting process, that will make it possible for us, to ensure that corruption is rooted out in the contracting process. That is all I can say for now. I think I've had a very long day, Honorable Minister for Government Communications. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you profusely for coming and for waiting. Yes, so that brings us to the end of the briefing.
Yeah, there's a late question, so please hurry up. But you will be the very last. It is out of.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, I remember the very last time you briefed us here. You made mention about an MP who had taken some money to kill the National Service story. Today, when addressing the issue of A+, you did indicate about the fact that you have a lot of those there on him. Is it the MP that you are referring to? Again, he's made several allegations against you. Is it a point that you want to consider filing a defamation suit against him? And how often are we going to see the learned Attorney General address the nation each time you file cases of this nature? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the question of whether I'm going to file a defamation suit against A+, well, I have considered it, but I want to spend the time profitably doing the work that the President has appointed me to do. I don't want any side show going to court every day with you media people on my back. I want to sit in that office and make sure that I do the work that His Excellency has, appointed me to do. So I will not spend my time, going to court for defamation. I think he said something earlier. Oh, yes. The question is whether he's MP. I think you should ask A+ when you meet him. You should ask him. I've asked you to ask him critical questions. You see, the problem we have in this country is partly as a result of the work that media men do. I'm being honest with you. When A+ went on Facebook and splashed that spurious allegation, how many of you went to ask him to bring you evidence of Dr. Ayini's corruption? How many of you? But we were busy circulating it all over the place. Okay? So if you dig deeper and ask critical questions, people like him will stop trying to defame public office holders who are doing their best to serve with honesty in public office. So for me, I think that whatever he has said, okay, I've explained to you precisely why it was a palpable falsehood. I've also told you that I have sufficient reserves of integrity, and you can cross-check, to continue to serve in public office. Okay, so I'm not going to spend time dealing with A+. However, if he wants to go along that track, I'll meet him where it matters most. So thank you very much. God bless.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, for this important briefing. So this should clarify the situation as to the sort of progress being made in the implementation of Operation Recover Our Loot. There are many who have questioned government's commitment to seeing through that particular promise. This should be your answer. And so until we meet again next time, good evening to all of you. And thanks for coming.